Welcome back. We have a word problem here and it reads, a farmer has 1.2 hectares of land. 3/4 of the land was used for planting tomatoes. 2/3 of the remaining land was used for planting onions, while cabbage was planted on the rest. Question 1. Express the area of the land used for cabbages as a fraction of that used for onions. Question 2. If a laborer was given a week to weed the tomato plantation and he completes 1/6 of it on the first day, what area in square meters was left? Take 1 hectare is equal to 10,000 meters squared. So what we understand from this question is the farmer has 1.2 hectares of land as an area and he planted different crops. He planted tomatoes, onions, and cabbages. But the fraction of the land allocated for these vegetables were different. So that is actually the sense that we can make from this problem. We have 1.2 hectares of land. So let's try to convert that first into meter squared. Solution. The area of the land in meter squared. We know that 1 hectare is equal to 10,000 meter squared. So the area of the land in hectares is 1.2. So that will be 1.2 hectares is equal to, let's say, x. If we cross multiply, we'll have x times 1 hectare is equal to 1.2 hectares times 10,000 meter squared. So to find x, we'll divide both sides by 1 hectare. Divide both sides by 1 hectare. So it means x is equal to 1.2, this hectare will cancel this hectare, times 10,000 meter squared. So x will be equal to 12,000 meter squared. So this is the area of the land in square meters. 1.2 hectares is equal to 12,000 meter squared. All right, moving on. If I want to represent this information using a diagram to help us understand, let's say this is the plot of land of the farmer. So from the question, it says that 3/4 of the land was used for planting tomatoes. So what that actually means in common sense is that if I divide this portion of the land into 4 equal parts, 3 out of the 4 parts was used for planting tomatoes. So that is this area, this area, this area, making it 3 out of the entire 4 areas was used for planting tomatoes. So it means that the remaining part will be 1/4, right? We can also obtain that by subtracting it from 1. So 1 minus 3/4 means is the area that was remaining, this part. So let's try to shade the portion used for planting tomatoes as shown. So it means out of the whole area of the land, 3/4 means 1, 2, 3 out of 4 as a total was all used for planting tomatoes. Okay, so that is the area where tomatoes were planted. So this area was for tomatoes. This area was also for tomatoes, as well as this area, making it 3 out of 4 of the entire land. And so this area was the remaining part, right? Moving on to the question again, it says 2/3 of the remaining land was used for planting onions, okay, while cabbage was planted on the rest. So going back to the diagram, this area was the remaining land or the remaining part. So that is 1/4 was remaining, right? And if this portion here that is remaining is divided into 3 parts, 2 out of that 3 parts was used for planting onions. So we can represent that again by dividing this remaining area into 3 equal parts. Okay, so which means this part, if it is divided into 3, 2/3 was used for planting onions. So we can shade that like this. And so this was the area used for planting onions. So the rest of the remaining part, which means this part, was used for planting cabbages. So that is 1/3 of the remaining part was used for planting cabbages. We can represent that by shading this area. So this was the area used for planting cabbages. Going over the diagram again, this is the plot of land of the farmer. It is 12,000 meters squared. The farmer uses 3/4 of his land to plant tomatoes. That is, if you divide the land into 4 parts, 3 out of the 4 was used for planting tomatoes. So it means the remaining land was 1 out of the 4, that is 1/4. Then out of this 1/4, if at all it was divided into 3 equal parts, then 2/3, that is 2 out of the 3 of the remaining land was used for planting onions. Therefore, 1/3 will be used for planting cabbages. You have to be very, very careful while interpreting the question because there is a trick, okay? If you read the question carefully, it states that 2/3 of the remaining land was used for planting onions. So the trick here is one will assume that is 2/3 of the entire land that was used for planting onions. No, it is 2/3 of the remaining land, okay? This means that we first have to find the fraction of the remaining land. Then when we multiply it by 2/3, that will give us the actual fraction of the land used for planting onions. So do not assume that this 2/3 is the fraction of the land used for planting onions. No. Moving on. The fraction of the land used for planting tomatoes is equal to 3 over 4. Then what should we do? To find the remaining land, the fraction of the remaining land will be equal to 1 minus 3 over 4. Okay, because the total fraction of the land must be equal to 1. So that is, we can say 1 over 1 minus 3 over 4. If I find the LCM, it will be 4. So 1 into 4 is 4 times 4 times 1 is 4, minus 4 into 4 is 1, 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, so we'll have 4 minus 3 is 1, so the answer will be 1 over 4. So you see, we have said that if 3 over 4 is the land used for planting tomatoes, then the remaining land will be 1 over 4. Okay, so it is from this 1 over 4 plot of land that was used for planting onions and cabbages. Moving on, we can find the fraction of the land used for planting onions. That will be, the remaining land was 1 over 4 multiplied by the fraction of the remaining land used for planting onions, which is 2 over 3. So when we multiply that, 1 times 2 is 2, divided by 4 times 3 is 12. So 2 goes once into 12 is 6 times, so we'll have 1 over 6. It means that actually 1 over 6 of the entire land was used for planting onions, okay? Or 2 over 3 out of that 1 over 4 of the remaining land was used for planting onions. Do we get that? Okay. Now, we can move on to find the fraction of the land used for planting cabbages. That will be, the remaining land was 1 over 4, and out of which 1 over 3 was used for planting cabbages. Okay, so that will be 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 3 is 12. So it means 1 over 12 of the entire land was used for planting cabbages. To know whether your answer is right or wrong, if you add 1 over 12, which is the fraction of the entire land used for planting cabbages, to 1 over 6, which is the entire land used for planting onions, to 3 over 4, which is the fraction of the land used for planting tomatoes, must be equal to 1. So fraction of the land used for planting tomatoes plus fraction of the land used for planting onion plus fraction of the land used for planting cabbages must be equal to 1. Moving on to the question. Question 1 reads, express the area of land used for cabbages as a fraction of that used for onions. So therefore, we have to know the area used for planting cabbages and the area used for planting onions, then we compare them as fractions. That is essentially what the question is asking. So to do that, area of the land used for planting cabbages would be, the fraction of the land used for planting cabbages is 1 over 12 multiplied by the total area of the land was 12,000. So that is going to give me 1,000 meter squared. Then I will move on to find the area of the land used for planting onions. The fraction of the land used for planting onions is 1 over 6. So that will be 1 over 6 times 12,000. And that will give us 2,000 meter squared. Okay, so question 1 is asking us to find the fraction when you compare these two areas. So that will be area of the land used for planting cabbages divided by the area of the land used for planting onions. That will be 1,000 meter squared as the area of the land used for planting cabbages divided by 2,000 meter squared as the area of the land used for planting onions. So we'll have 1 over 2 as the answer. Moving on to the second question, it asks us if a laborer was given a week to weed the tomato plantation and he completes 1 over 6 of it on the first day, what area in square meters was left? So here we are dealing with the tomato plantation. So first thing we have to do is, let's try to know the area of the land used in planting tomatoes. That would be the fraction of the land used for planting tomatoes was 3 over 4. Then if we multiply that by the entire land, which is 12,000 meters squared, we will have 9,000 meter squared. So it means this is the area of the land used for planting tomatoes. Now, if on the first day, the laborer was able to complete 1/6 of the area of the land used for planting tomatoes, what was remaining? That is the question. Now, let's find the area of the land weeded by the laborer on the first day. That is going to be 1 over 6 times the area used for planting tomatoes was 9,000 meter squared. So that will be 1 over 6 times 9,000 gives 1,500 meters squared. So which squared, which means on the first day, the laborer weeded an area of 1,500 meters squared out of the 9,000 meters squared land allocated for planting tomatoes. So the area of the land remaining on the tomato plantation will be 9,000 meter squared minus 1,500 meter squared, and that will be 7,500 meter squared, and that answers the question. For more videos on word problem, please hit on the notification bell and do not forget to subscribe, like, and share our videos.